This is how I got my 2.4 personal best of 7.5 minutes during the off-season. If you watch my Spikes vs Carbon Shoe video, that's the first workout after my break from the last race of my season. So now it's 2 weeks later, and I wanted to test my 2.4 time after just 2 weeks of training. So while you watch me run here or here, I'm gonna share the training I did during the last 2 weeks which may help you during your own 2.4. What I did during the last 2 weeks is really similar to the 2.4 plan I shared 2 years ago. So essentially very short and fast intervals to get the top end speed up. But when I look back at my breakthrough performances like a 36-minute 10k recently, I did quite high mileage and a tempo run before the 10k. While I still don't think tempo workouts are necessary for a 2.4, I believe running easy long mileage works. Actually, the first time I got near 8 minutes for 2.4 during army, I remember I did 90 kilometers of easy running the week before. Yeah, that's when I had a lot of free time in NS. I'm not saying that easy mileage was all I did back then, but that helped me get that significant fitness boost. Now, even though my mileage wasn't that high before this 2.4, I was training for my half Ironman the months prior, so I think there's still some fitness in me from those high mileage weeks. So that's why I only did fast intervals these 2 weeks. Anyway, back to high mileage. For most endurance sports, the number one predictor of race performance is simply just training volume. Probably heard distance runners running around 200 plus kilometers a week, and 80 to 90% of their training is easy. However, those are professional and competitive amateur athletes. But for the average Singaporean who just wants to clear their yearly IPPT like us, we just want the fastest and quickest way to improve our 2.4, of course without taking too much of our time. So if you're someone who don't run at all, I think the lowest hanging fruit training is simply just doing easy mileage. And from week to week, you just simply increase the duration you spend on your feet until the week before your 2.4 test. Since the goal is to spend more time on your feet, that means you cannot go hard and you have to go slow. High mileage is meant to increase your running economy. Simply put, it's like how efficient you are running. So no matter what your race distance is, from like a 2.4k to a full marathon, running economy will always benefit you. If you've heard of Zone 2 before, a good estimate of the top end of your Zone 2 is about 75% of your maximum heart rate. You don't really need to run exactly at 75%. I like to take 75% as the ceiling and run below that. For me, that's around warm-up pace. If you don't have really abnormal heart rates, that's around 130 to 150, maybe 160 beats per minute for most people. For 2.4 km, you don't really need as much mileage as someone who is training for a full marathon. From experience, when I started running from my high school cross-country team, I managed to do 8.5 minutes for 2.4 in my first year of running just by doing intervals and one long run every weekend. So our cross-country team was running around 30 to 40 km a week, not very high mileage. That's why the 8.5 minutes felt like a super full gas effort. But when I was in university, I was trying to push closer to 50 to 60 km a week. And a full gas effort would bring me to 8 minutes for 2.4, but that wasn't consistent. Now I'm doing a 7.5 minute 2.4. My mileage hit a max of 160 kilometers a week, but that was because I was training for the Phu Quoc half Ironman, this one. So purely based on experience, easy mileage isn't as important as intervals for 2.4. But doing easy mileage will help all distances because of the running economy benefits and more mitochondria in your muscle cells. So more mileage is still better, especially if you're doing things like 2XU run and Standard Chartered Marathon. But if you have never run before, try starting with just 20 minutes of easy running every alternate days and add 5 minutes each time until you can comfortably do 1 hour of easy running. Besides running, I also have been improving my strength game. So I've just collected a few more weights and have been doing a couple of deadlifts every single day. I found that if I do deadlifts right before a workout, my legs feel a lot lighter because it's literally taking weights off my shoulders. Of course, when I do them every day, I don't do deadlifts until exhaustion. That will probably ruin my workouts. But if you only have 1 day a week to do strength training, try and strengthen those legs as much as possible. Besides high mileage, if you want to get the fastest 2.4 time, you'd obviously want to include some intervals as well. From experience, I feel very noticeable gains after doing very short and very fast intervals. So I mean 200, 400 repeats. To be honest, doing 1k intervals, I don't really feel faster after that, but I still do them from time to time. After that Spikes vs Carbon Shoe video, the day after that, I did a 400 meter full gas effort at 1 minute and 4 seconds. A few days later, my 200 repeats was the fastest I ever ran, around 30 to 31 seconds. Then a few days after that, I thought I should try to do a 400 meter workout. And for that 10 times 400 meter, I also did my best 400 meter workout ever. I averaged about 1 minute 9 seconds to 1 minute 10 seconds for each 400. The final workout before this 2.4 was 6 times 1k, which is the same as the Spikes vs Carbon Shoe video. I was around 5 to 10 seconds faster than the previous workout. In fact, my slowest 1km from this workout was the fastest 1km from the previous workout. So now I knew I was ready for a solid 2.4. I know some of you guys have been asking me for an update of my 2.4 plan, which was 2 years ago. So in the new plan, instead of doing intervals every single week, I've changed it to alternate weeks of mileage and then intervals the next week. I also like it better because it's not intervals every single week. I basically did the same intervals in the new plan before I did this 2.4 attempt. The main workouts are 12 times 200 meters and 10 times 400 meters. When preparing for an event, it's important to take all the training checkboxes like high mileage. I did it while training for my half Ironman, and then strength, which especially include squats and deadlifts. And depending on your race, for 2.4 you definitely just need high speed intervals like 200 and 400 meters. And I did those within a week before my 2.4 attempt, so that is when you really gain the most benefit. From experience, I found that for 2.4 you don't really need threshold or tempo workouts. I only found tempo workout useful for 10 km onwards. I did my 36-minute 10k after doing a 21k tempo like 6 days before. Anyway, for 2.4, the checkboxes you need are just 3 things: easy mileage, strength, and high speed intervals. Strength workouts and easy mileage runs will apply to all distances you're training for, and only the types of intervals will differ a bit. So the 3 things I improved from my previous training plan: 1. Adding more easy zone 2 runs. By the way, I think the easy runs in my plan are quite beginner friendly, so if you think it's too short, feel free to do more easy runs. And doing easy runs on consecutive days are welcome, but definitely get some rest before your interval workouts. 2nd, I've added a few 400 meter full gas efforts throughout the 8 weeks. And 3, I've also cut down the number of intervals and increased the rest time so you can push even harder. And every other week, when you do the same interval workout, like 400 meters for example, your goal is to do the same workout but quicker than the previous 400 meter workout. Oh, and I've also included the 8-minute 2.4 plan if you are up for it. Today I was aiming for exactly 7.5 minutes for 2.4. That's basically 1 minute and 15 seconds a lap. Perhaps if I paced it better because I slowed down during the middle few laps, or if I'm chasing someone, I think I would have broken 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Anyway, this was the result after just 2 weeks of training from my new training plan. Perhaps with a few more weeks of training, maybe I can do a 7:20. But one of my main goals for the next season is sub 17 minutes for the 5k. I'm pretty excited about the season ahead, and now it's 101 days to T100 Singapore. Happy New Year and see you in the next video. Goodbye.
$7:36.